What is going on, everybody? This is James Krasnerick here live with another edition of Real Steel Sports on Spreaker Web Radio. I hope everybody enjoyed Divisional Weekend. The 4 games have now been concluded. The Colts have defeated the Broncos, the Patriots have defeated the Ravens, the Seahawks have taken out the Panthers, and the Packers came back to beat the Cowboys. I'll be talking about them in 2 different segments tonight. The first segment will be about the AFC playoffs. I'll talk about how the Broncos fell to the Colts, and about the Ravens blew a lead to the Patriots. First off, I'm going to talk about the Ravens-Patriots game, because I said going into that game that I thought the Ravens would win that game by about 3 or 4 points. I thought the Ravens had enough to go into Foxborough, and you know what? Honestly, I could be sitting here right now so easily saying how right I was, but I got to give credit where credit is due to one man, and that man is Tom Brady, because that game right there really did prove Brady's clutch. It proved his worth to that team. And the thing about it is this. They didn't even try to run the football. I mean, it was almost abysmal how few rushing yards they had in that game. They didn't even try. And the thing about it was, I didn't expect them to gain much on the ground anyway, because I knew for a fact that whenever everything was all said and done, running the football, especially if you're a Patriots fan, is not going to beat the Ravens. I mean, looking at the box score of it right now, the Ravens ran for a grand total of 14 yards on 13 carries. That's it. Brady and Julian Edelman, with that insane pass in the fourth quarter, accounted for the other 51 yards. Actually, no, the third quarter, my bad. Accounted for all of the 408 yards. I mean, it was a really good game. It was a fun game to watch and listen to. I actually listened to a lot of it on radio, and I also watched a lot of it too. And I thought it was probably the best game of the weekend. It was. I mean, the other 3 games were decent, but not like this. This game had excitement. If you were a Pats fan, you were happy, and a Ravens fan, if you were pissed. But thinking about it, this is from an analyst perspective. I'm literally not surprised at anything that happened in this game. And you know what? I'm not surprised the Patriots won. I'm not. Because even though I picked the Ravens to win, that doesn't necessarily mean I was 100% sure they were going to beat the Patriots. I thought they were. But that doesn't necessarily mean that, I was so confident if the Patriots win, I'll be dumbfounded. No. I thought the Ravens was going to beat them. But I didn't think the Patriots couldn't beat the Ravens. I mean, think about it. The Ravens did everything right in this game. They sacked Brady twice. They hit him 9 times. They deflected 2 of his passes. I mean, Melvin and Mosley combined total for 21 tackles. You look at the Pats. They didn't sack Flacco once. They only hit him 4 times. They had 2 tackles for loss. Looking at the way that they played the game on defense alone, Baltimore held them down until the second half. They did. They had the 21-14 halftime lead, and then the 28-14 lead, and at that point the Patriots outscored them 21-3 the rest of the way. I mean, this game was really one of those games where any team could win it because both offenses were moving it in will. But again, I feel that the mistake the Ravens made was they got away from running the football a little bit in the second half, and they threw it a little bit too much. Because if you look at what they did, their running total in the second half didn't come close to the first half. Forsett had like 70 yards before halftime. He had 129 in the game. So more or less they abandoned the run game in the fourth quarter. And on those critical downs of 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3 when they threw the football and got incomplete passes or were short, they could have handed it to Forsett to have him run the distance. Now for the Patriots defense, they really clamped down in the second half. They may have given up the touchdown on the first drive, but after that, they allowed the Ravens 3 points. They got 2 interceptions. And pretty much caused the Ravens internally to self-destruct. I mean, you look at the fact that the pass rush was pretty much absent in the second half. You look at the fact that in terms of the turnover differential, the Patriots dominated the second half. The way that they played was vindictive of a team that had more playoff experience than had been there before. And although the Ravens had made the playoffs every year since 2008, with the exception of 2013 when they went 8-8, this team still has a lot of guys on there with a very little playoff experience. Ultimately, though, I think when we talk about this game, if we flip it over to the offensive side, Flacco, aside from the 2 interceptions, had an incredibly good game. His QBR, even though he threw 2 interceptions, was 85.7. which was actually higher than Brady's, 80.1. Ultimately, though, I think that in terms of their play calling, I wish they would have taken a couple more shots with Torrey Smith. I think if they would have, it would have paid dividends, gotten some interference penalties down the field. Steve Smith Sr., I felt that, he wasn't targeted near enough. I thought they could have tried to do more to isolate him, get him one-on-one, get him in space, because when you give Steve Smith Sr. the ball in space, he is dangerous. I don't care how old he is. Now, the Ravens, again, the Patriots, they started off really slow. They didn't run the football at all. Brady, wasn't playing well in the first half. He completed barely half his passes at one point. And then when he turned it on the second half, and he had that great, he threw, I believe, 3 touchdowns, and he threw 2 touchdowns in the second half. And if you look at some of the throws that he made, he had one of the best second halves of his career. He played extremely well. Ultimately, I think what the big difference in this game was the fourth quarter, because they were both tied going into it. It was 28-all. And the Ravens simply mentally kind of crapped all over themselves. And the Patriots, I think, kind of sensed it, because they had abandoned the run game and were pretty much just throwing it willy-nilly. And Flacco's a very good postseason quarterback. He is. His numbers stand out, especially on the road. But Flacco is not going to be getting anywhere in the playoffs without a run game. He is not going to get anywhere throwing it 60 times a game. Like the first game of the season against the Bengals, he threw it like 62 times. Flacco's not going to win you games throwing it 62 times. You need to keep him between 25 to 35 pass attempts. You keep him in that range with a good running game and you'll win. I mean, the Ravens had the edge in time of possession. They had the edge in total yards. They ran the ball a lot better. But what it came down to is the fact that if you look at all the team players on the New England Patriots, just look at what the Patriots have done in the playoffs since the 2009 season. Made it. They won the division. They won the division again. They won the division in 2011 and lost in the Super Bowl. 2012 lost in the AFC title game. 2013 they lost in the AFC title game. Look at what the Ravens have done. 2009 they made it to the divisional round. 2010 made it to the divisional round. 2011 lost in the AFC title game. 2012 they won the Super Bowl, and last year missed the playoffs. The exodus of players from the team that won the Super Bowl into this year is pretty astounding. I think half the roster is different. And half the roster pretty much had never really played in a playoff game. So it was a big transition for a lot of them. But the Patriots, who have been in the playoffs so many times over the past few years, have so many pieces on that team that have really helped out. That's the reason why that they won that game. Mentally, they were a little bit tougher, and when the Ravens got that big lead, they didn't convert near enough on those big downs. I mean, look at the difference on third. This will pretty much tell you the entire game. The Ravens were 1 of 9 on third down. The Patriots were 6 of 11. That's the reason why the Patriots won the game. And their opponent will be the Indianapolis Colts, who recently, actually it was about half an hour ago, took out the Denver Broncos for a spot in the AFC title game alongside the New England Patriots. This game is one of the weirdest playoff games I've ever seen, because never have I been so wrong about a playoff game, and I'll admit that. I thought that Denver was going to get their points. I thought that the 2 weeks would have made Manning's arm stronger, would have healed his leg injuries. Peyton Manning, honestly, looked like a shell of himself. He looked like the same quarterback. He looked like he was still in his freshman year at Tennessee. He didn't look like the 5-time MVP. He looked lethargic in this game. And I think it was very much hinted. 26 of 46 for 211 yards. He's averaging 4.6 per attempt. That's kind of lame. The Broncos pass rush, which was posterized with Dumerville and Von Miller all season, did not touch Andrew Luck. Didn't hit him, didn't sack him, didn't do anything. Pretty much the offensive line for Indianapolis canceled out. Costanzo and that whole front five had a pretty impressive game to hold down 2 of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Now as for Indianapolis, they got after Peyton Manning. They got 2 sacks on him, and they didn't hit him very much. But on the same note, they really didn't have to. They just needed to make him feel just uncomfortable enough in the pocket to disturb him. They did that. There really wasn't much that the Broncos could do, because the Colts secondary tackled extremely well in this game. Guys like Mike Adams, guys like LaRon Landry, guys like Vontae Davis, they tackled so well in this game, because if they even got a finger on whether it was Demaryius or Julius Thomas, they were bringing him down. I've never seen a Colts defense, especially under Chuck Pagano, tackle this well, because I've watched a lot of the games where the Colts have lost, like against Dallas this year, like against New England last year in the playoffs, like them this year when Jonas Gray had that 4-touchdown, 200-yard game. They didn't tackle well. The Colts tackled extremely well in this football game. That's the reason why they won. Look at the yards per catch in this game. The Broncos were averaging 8.1 yards per reception. Welker had 20 yards per reception. He had a 20-yard catch. You look at Emmanuel Sanders, had 1,400 yards this year. He had 46 on 7 catches. His yards per catch was 6.6. The Broncos' run game was pretty much non-existent. I mean, C.J. Anderson was okay and picked up some big first downs and averaged almost 4.5 yards a clip. But his longest was a 22-yard run. If you take that away, his numbers were pretty average. The Colts with Herron, Luck, Tipton, those guys ran for a combined 98 yards in this game. I was pretty surprised that they ran the ball with the kind of efficiency that they did, because it's not so much that, the Colts couldn't run the Broncos. I was surprised that the Colts ran this well at all. I was expecting maybe 45, 50 yards total, not 99. This Broncos-Colts game is, I think, a great example of why Peyton Manning is not considered the greatest quarterback of all time. Because, let's put it this way, I'd have to say that aside from a couple of drops by the skill position players, both teams, minus their quarterbacks, played about as well as each other. Like the quarterback ratings in this game, Manning had a rating of 75.5. Lux was 76.2. Not QBR, but the standard system that goes to 158.3. So neither of their ratings are particularly impressive, and Luck threw 2 picks. But think about it this way. If the quarterbacks would have played about the same, then this game would have been similar. But there's a huge difference. Peyton Manning was just absolutely god-awful on third down. I think there was a point where he was like 3 of 11 for 20 yards on third down. He just was horrible. I mean, look at the third down rating. They were 4 for 16, Denver was. Andrew Luck and the Colts were 5 of 13. That's not great either. That's still less than 50%, and it's almost down to 33%. But if you look at the way that they mastered drives and held on to the football, I mean, they dominated time possession. Andrew Luck, again, 27 of 43 for 265, 2 scores, 2 picks. Again, a solid outing for him. Nothing special, but still solid enough to get the victory. What he's been doing is, these last month or so, is he's playing solid enough to get the victory, and he's trying to cut down on his turnovers. I know he threw 2 interceptions today, but just think about this for a second. The Colts threw 2 interceptions today, and the Broncos still only scored 1 touchdown. 1 touchdown today. That's it. 1 offensive touchdown. You'd expect I thought that Denver seriously had a good chance to drop 30 to 35 on this team before the fourth quarter. I was listing 35-27 to be nice, and I thought the defense for Denver would be enough to get them through this game, but their retooling didn't help because of Peyton Manning. And I think, I'm calling this right here as I see it, we just watched Peyton Manning's last game. I think this will be his last game for this reason. Number one, I don't think he wants to potentially come back and learn a whole new system with a whole new guy if Adam Gase isn't there again this year. And number two, just look at him. He's emaciated. His arm doesn't have near the strength that it used to. I mean, the fact that he threw 55 touchdowns last year with half the nerves in his arm damaged is just incredible. He doesn't have the weight. He can't squeeze the football, he can't throw it like he used to. And I watched him today. A lot of his passes were short. A lot of them were at receivers' feet. He did not have a good day throwing the football, and his accuracy was extremely in question. When you're a quarterback of this age and you're getting injured and your body starts to break down and your accuracy starts to go, then pretty much it's time for you to pack it in and call it a career. But ultimately, what made this game for Indianapolis was 3 statistics. Number one, Manning's incompletions on third down. He was 3 of 11 at one point. Number two, the fact that the Colts ran for 99 yards in this game. Their 3.5 per clip isn't impressive, but when you think about the fact that they just consistently ran the ball and wore down the Broncos defense, something that even good running games in the league this year couldn't do. And finally, the big statistic, third down in general, they were 4 of 16. There's a reason why they're going to be sitting at home this weekend. Anyways, that's my opinion on the first two of the AFC playoff games. I'll be back in a very, very short time with the NFC playoff games. I'll talk about how Seattle defeated the Carolina Panthers and how the Green Bay Packers came back to defeat the Dallas Cowboys.